Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star episode number 454 based on novel. So let's start. On the 7th floor of Wu Chi Tower was an ice-cold world. A nearly transparent ice mountain was close in front of Luo Feng. The 7th floor. Luo Feng was excited. There are 9 floors in Wu Chi Tower in total. The first 8 floors are the tests, and if I can get to the 9th floor, I'll succeed. The more Luo Feng thought about it, the more Luo Feng was convinced that there was a huge secret hidden on the 9th floor of Wu Chi Tower. There are only 2 hazards left. The one on the 7th and the 8th floor. Luo Feng looked around warily. No matter how powerful he was, he needed to be cautious. The closer he got to approaching the final victory, the more cautious he needed to be. Space ripples spread in the sky where cold air was spreading, and a giant single eye appeared. A godly eye? Luo Feng was dazed. The 3rd floor featured the final death trap on Wu Chi Tower. It had the same godly eye, which produced a powerful mind shock. Why does the 7th floor have a godly eye as well? Is it also a mind shock? Luo Feng was hesitant. But it must be the same as the 3rd floor. There should at least be something different. The godly eye gave out a blurry golden light, covering Luo Feng. Soldier Milky Way. The ancient voice was echoing in Luo Feng's ears. If you pass the test of the godly eye, you'll enter the 8th floor of Wu Chi Tower, which will be your final test in Wu Chi Tower. The ancient voice faded. The blurry golden light gave out a forceful, mind shock, irritating Luo Feng. It was indeed a mental shock as powerful as the one on the 3rd floor of Wu Chi Tower when the test there had ended. Mind shock. Luo Feng looked up at the godly eye. He had to take it directly without running away. It was invisible, so there was no way he could hide from it. He had to resist it directly, mind versus mind. Why does the 7th floor still have a mind shock? Luo Feng was perplexed. Then he stopped thinking and tried to fight that mental shock with all his power. The 4 leaders stared at the screen. That soldier Milky Way's mind is very strong, so it should be easy for him to pass the 7th floor. The voice of the towering leader was rumbling. Let's see how much he can learn from the Godly Eye Technique. Godly Eye Technique was created by Majesty of Godly King, said the Black Mist leader. It's a special technique, and in the world of Jinn, only the special ones can be sealed. Those that have special contributions and those with great potential can be bestowed. Okay, 6 soldiers made it to the 7th floor of Wu Chi Tower. 5 of them failed, and 1 of them succeeded and made it to the 8th floor. The worst of them didn't even finish the 1st volume, and the best finished the 3rd volume. Let's see how many volumes this Milky Way can learn. Luo Feng didn't know that he was fighting the mind shock using all his strength. Sometimes, he looked at the godly eye in the sky, and sometimes, he looked at the nearly transparent ice mountain around him. I'm just supposed to fight the mind shock like this? Luo Feng thought. What's the limit of this godly eye? Even though Luo Feng had strong willpower, everything had its limits. If that godly eye attack went beyond his limit, he would pass out and be transported out. It's a great chance to sharpen my willpower, though, thought Luo Feng. There are 8 levels of hazards in Wu Chi Tower. I don't think the 7th floor will stop me. Luo Feng kept resisting it. The blurry golden light covered everything below. Luo Feng looked as if he were wearing a golden cloth. The mind shock was getting more and more powerful, and it reached the level of the limit of a true god in no time. But that was nothing to Luo Feng. Huh? Luo Feng glanced at the ice mountain. What's that? On the surface of the ice mountain, ancient characters appeared. They were all characters from the ancient civilization, and they covered the mountain. The characters were from the 1st volume of Godly Eye Technique. Godly Eye Technique? Luo Feng was exhilarated after reading the 1st line. Ha ha. All the floors after the 3rd level have prizes. Although there are hazards as well, there are lots of prizes. The 7th floor gives techniques directly. Secret techniques were different from techniques. Techniques at the Universe Knight level didn't mean anything to Universe Masters, and with great beings becoming more powerful, they needed to create techniques that were suitable for them. Those techniques at a lower level didn't help them at all. However, secret techniques were different. Duan Mia, Donghua, and Undying River were all secret techniques, and they were universally useful. A powerful secret technique like Undying River could certainly boost someone's power. Secret techniques were invaluable even in the ancient civilization. Luo Feng had obtained a whole set of Duan Mia before, but under the restrictions of the original mind, he had only been able to read the first 3 volumes. However, once someone became a true god of void space, he would be able to read the latter material of Duan Mia. While someone was only a universe master or a true god, Duan Mia could help them trump many godly power burning techniques, and it would help them remain at an advantage after they reached a higher level. This advantage would remain. In the world of Jin, only the first several levels of godly power burning techniques were spread. I got a secret technique, Luo Feng said, elated. Let me see which secret technique it is. Does Duandong River have it also? Duandong River only had one inheritor for each generation. However, His Majesty the Godly King had built an entire superpower. Perhaps those techniques owned by His Majesty the Godly King were not owned by Duandong River. Huh? Luo Feng looked carefully. As for the mental shock, it was nothing to Luo Feng. Godly Eye technique is a technique for the mind. Luo Feng was overjoyed. A great gain. A great chance. He had the Duandong River inheritance, and he was also familiar with the ancient civilization, so he knew exactly how important Godly Eye technique was. Godly Eye technique was a secret technique using the mind. Perhaps the ancestral teachers from Duandong River had been able to create 3 or 4 volumes, but if the ancestral teachers were proficient in it, they wouldn't have been able to create them at an exceptional level. 3 or 4 volumes were nothing to a powerful group or an inheritance. Only those that were complete, those techniques that were exceptional across the entire ancient civilization, were useful. Like Duan Mia, Donghua, and Undying River, for example. Luo Feng read the introduction of the first volume of Godly Eye technique. Willpower. Every great being has willpower. Some have stronger willpower, while others have weaker willpower. When a weak being dies, everything will go away. However, when a great being dies, his willpower will remain. A drop of blood or scales. All of them will contain great mental pressure. When great beings are still alive, they will fight each other, and when the minds fight each other, great beings can toy with their enemies' heads. If the willpower between the 2 competitors is too large, the stronger one could put the weaker one into a coma, rendering him powerless. Luo Feng nodded his head. A great being had a soul, a consciousness, and willpower. If their souls were destroyed, they would be dead forever. As for one's consciousness, it was built on the soul. The more powerful someone's soul was, the greater his consciousness would be. When 2 great beings fought each other, if there was a huge gap of consciousness between them, like between true gods and universe knights, the stronger could crush the weaker soul easily. However, willpower was different. Willpower wasn't correlated with souls. Even if someone had a weak soul and a weak consciousness, he could still possess mighty willpower. When someone was weak, willpower didn't help much. The best it could do would be to resist illusions. And when someone died, his willpower would dissipate and be rendered useless. However, when someone became a true god of void space, or even more superior, willpower would become of great use. Even when a supreme being died, his willpower would remain, such as in the drop of godly blood Luo Feng had. However, even in the ancient civilization, some great beings only knew how to use willpower through primitive means, they didn't know how to utilize it in a more flexible way. Willpower was not material. So how could one use it? Only supreme beings who comprehended willpower could create some techniques based on willpower. They were not like burning power techniques. Even true gods of void space could comprehend the first level of a godly power burning technique. As for a willpower technique, even eternal true gods couldn't comprehend them. Only those who mastered chaos laws could comprehend them. Godly Eye technique was a secret technique created by His Majesty the Godly King. Only those whose willpower has reached the level of true gods of void space can practice Godly Eye technique. Huh? It's kind of like practicing hearts. Luo Feng was reading the pondering the first volume of Godly Eye technique. Other than some of the practice guides of secret techniques, there were also guides on how to improve one's willpower. Based on the material, one needed to focus on his heart, analyze it, learn more about it, and keep improving oneself. The Godly Eye kept emanating blurry golden light, and the willpower shock inside kept being strengthened. It had already surpassed the limit true god level. There was a huge gap between limit true gods and true gods of void space. However, Luo Feng couldn't still easily resist it. Characters kept appearing on the ice mountain, yet this was still the first volume. Apparently, it was a long volume. Then characters stopped showing up, and the first volume of Godly Eye Technique was shown on the ice mountain in its entirety. It took a long time to show only the first volume. If someone's willpower isn't stronger than Limit True Gods, he might not be able to read the first volume. Luo Feng sighed. He saw another ice mountain in the distance, and characters began to appear on its surface as well. Oh! The second volume of Godly Eye Technique. Luo Feng was amazed and began to memorize them. Many characters started to emerge from the transparent, icy mountainside, and with a single glance, Luo Feng could read the new techniques instantly. It was the whole chapter of the second volume. He had already completed reading the whole volume. Luo Feng was relieved. After only a while. Again. Luo Feng turned around and looked at another ice mountain in the distance. He could see characters appearing wildly on the transparent, icy mountainside. It was the third volume of Godly Eye Technique. The characters kept emerging, seemingly without end. The Black Mist leader looked at the screen in the palace. Is this already the third volume of Godly Eye Technique? So fast. Wow. The first 3 volumes are all there already. Milky Way has already learned the first 3 volumes, which means that compared to all the previous soldiers who attempted this task, he is the best candidate. There are 9 volumes in total. Let's see which volume he'll end with. Did His Majesty the Godly King put all the 9 volumes there? The towering leader asked, perplexed. The other leaders shook their heads. Who knows? The best soldier previously only finished the first 3 volumes. Who knows how many volumes His Majesty the Godly King put in there? Even though the 4 of them were leaders, and all 4 were sealed great beings, even they weren't qualified to get all the 9 volumes of Godly Eye Technique. After all, to a powerful group, the more advanced a technique was, the more important it was to the group. They were offered on a merit-based system, which meant that those who made more contributions would obtain more techniques. The 4th volume. He started the 4th volume. The willpower shock is incredible right now, yet that soldier Milky Way doesn't seem to be affected much. Perhaps he can comprehend more. The 4 leaders were all curious about how much Milky Way could learn. Luo Feng was relieved. Finally, he had finished the first 4 volumes. Each volume had lots of material, and it had taken a while for it to be completely revealed on the ice mountain. He had been afraid that he might not be able to resist it. The 5th volume. Luo Feng looked toward another ice mountain, and many characters emerged on it. It was the 5th volume of Godly Eye Technique. Luo Feng grew irritated after just 1/3 of the 5th volume had emerged. No. He took a look at the Godly Eye in the sky. The blurry, golden light was covering him, and the willpower shock was becoming stronger. Such a strong willpower shock. Luo Feng said, feeling anxious. I can already feel the great intense pressure. It must be at the level of a senior true god of void space now. Luo Feng kept staring at the icy mountain in the distance. The characters continued to arise. He was reluctant to have his willpower crumble before finishing that volume. Pressure. Vigorous pressure weighed on his willpower. It felt like a mountain, and it was becoming heavier, slowing down Luo Feng's thinking. The 5th volume. Quick! Quick! Luo Feng was nervous. Another 15 seconds passed. The contents of the 5th volume were shown in their entirety on the ice mountain, and a new volume started to emerge on yet another ice mountain. The 6th volume, said Luo Feng. He could sense that the technique was emerging faster and faster. In truth, the Godly Eye Technique was indeed emerging at a gradually faster pace with each volume. Luo Feng's face went pale under that horrifying mental shock. His body trembled, yet he was still staring at the ice mountain in the distance. He continued memorizing the material of the 6th volume. Luo Feng couldn't help falling to the ground. No. No, said Luo Feng. He knew he had reached his limit. He was not in the space of inheritance to sharpen his willpower. If the willpower shock got stronger, he would pass out. No. Luo Feng desperately desired to read more about the Godly Eye Technique. I can't fall down. At least 6 volumes. I must finish 6 volumes. Luo Feng was roaring inside. Each second felt like an era, which made it feel as if the characters were emerging too slowly. I must finish it. I must do it. It was Luo Feng's only thought, to finish the first 6 volumes. He had to finish them. He had to. Luo Feng could sense that his willpower was crumbling, but he was still pulling through. He stared into the distance and wondered why the characters were emerging so slowly. Why didn't they appear all at once? Finally, all the characters of the 6th volume of the Godly Eye Technique appeared on the ice mountain. At the same time, the 7th volume started to emerge on the mountainside of another ice mountain. However, Luo Feng couldn't hold on any longer after enduring the 6th volume. He blacked out without reading the 7th volume. A pillar of light appeared and covered Luo Feng, who was unconscious. Finally, he left the 7th floor. All 4 leaders went quiet. They were staring at the screen, collectively holding their breath. At a crucial moment, the characters emerged faster and faster. There wasn't any time gap between volumes, and the longer Luo Feng could persevere, the more material he could read. He could tell that it was difficult for law masters to improve when they reached the limit, which was why the Godly Eye Technique emerged faster and faster. The 5th volume is done. The 6th volume was also finished. Soldier Milky Way fell. Luo Feng disappeared from the screen. The 4 leaders felt relieved. 6th volume. Unfortunately, he fell before the 7th volume was finished. However, it's all blurred, so we can't see anything. It's not surprising that he couldn't finish the 7th volume. After all, His Majesty the Godly King only gave us the first 6 volumes. Milky Way is only a law master, yet he was able to complete the first 6 volumes. He's more impressive than us. The 4 leaders were chatting with each other. There was nothing on the screen. Let's take it back, said the towering leader. Okay, said the Black Mist leader. The screen disappeared from the palace. After all, even the 4 leaders couldn't see anything on the 8th and 9th floor, which was why they had no idea what hazards waited on the 8th floor or what kind of secret His Majesty the Godly King had left behind on the 9th floor. Wait. Yes, we can only wait. If that soldier Milky Way can get the inheritance successfully, the sealing task will disappear automatically. There was only one task for law masters, and if someone succeeded, the task would disappear and wouldn't show up again. Can this soldier succeed? The Black Mist leader was worried. One soldier made it to the 8th floor, but he failed in the end. We asked him about the 8th floor when he exited, but he couldn't remember anything about it. There's got to be a huge secret on the 8th floor, said the silver-armored female leader. Otherwise, His Majesty the Godly King wouldn't have erased his memories. Just wait and see. The leaders were indeed curious. They had been born in the world of Jinn, so they were absolutely loyal to His Majesty the Godly King. With one order, they would die for the Godly King without hesitation. However, they were also curious. They had been in Godly King Valley for a long time, and their job was to find the peerless talent sought by their Godly King. His Majesty the Godly King eagerly sought this talented individual. What was there on the 8th and 9th floors of Wu Chi Tower? Luo Feng saw that the time and space around him were twisted, and he was transported to the 8th floor. Even after Luo Feng appeared on the 8th floor of Wu Chi Tower, he was still mesmerized by the scenes on the 7th floor. It's indeed difficult to make a breakthrough in willpower. On the 7th floor, my willpower is strengthened, and I should reach the level of a top-tier true god of void space. It's close to the limit of true gods of void space. 6 volumes. I got 6 volumes of the Godly Eye Technique. Only the first 3 volumes of Du and Mia are suitable for true gods to practice, and these 6 volumes of Godly Eye Technique will take me a long time to finish. Luo Feng was quite content. Even Duan Dong River didn't have Godly Eye Technique, which meant it was a powerful technique owned exclusively by Jinn. I'm on the 8th floor now, which is the last challenge on Wu Chi Tower, my last step to the top. Luo Feng looked around. There was a space around him, and there was a small landform floating in the vast space in the distance. It was so small that it might take Luo Feng 100 steps to finish walking from one end to the other. There was only one landform in the endless space. Luo Feng flew toward it like a streak of light. It appeared to be close, but it took him a long time to reach it. Time and space seemed to be suppressed, so he couldn't teleport. There's a huge secret hidden in Wu Chi Tower. That sealed being is extraordinary. Nobody has succeeded in the endless time. What will stand in my way to discovering the huge secret? Luo Feng was curious and worried at the same time. The final challenge was all that stood between him and the huge secret, so it surely wouldn't be simple. The 8th level. It would be the final task. And it awaited him on that small island. He flew for a long time before landing on the island. It looked arid and desolate. However, on the ground were many ancient characters. Huh? Luo Feng took a look. The characters were simple. The 8th level is the final step to the top. Observe the space around you and get one technique. If you can succeed, you'll reach the 9th level of Wu Chi Tower. If you fail, your memories will be erased, and you'll leave Wu Chi Tower. After Luo Feng finished reading the instructions, the ancient characters disappeared. He raised up his head and looked around at the space. Huge characters showed up in the space around him. Each one looked like a star, connecting with each other to form a picture. There wasn't a single comma between the characters. They were all connected. He couldn't tell where the start was or where the end was. Luo Feng stood on the suspended miniature continent and surveyed his surroundings. Looking around the void space, I can obtain one secret technique. And upon mastering it, I can enter the 9th level? If I fail, all my memories will be erased, and I will have to leave Wu Chi Tower. Luo Feng frowned. The temptation to enter the 9th level, especially when he was so close to achieving it, was extremely great. But the countless characters suspended in the void space around him left him in a daze thanks to their overwhelming numbers. He didn't know where to start. At first glance, they were like a sky filled with stars. Every character was one star, and they were all connected to one another. But because all of them were gathered together, it was impossible to identify where the starting point of this secret technique was or where its end would be. He did not even know where there could be pauses. To cultivate this secret technique, I must first organize all its contents. Luo Feng looked at the countless characters suspended all over the surrounding void space. But I know nothing about any of it. How am I going to divide them up into phases? If I cannot divide them into phases, how am I going to start the cultivation? Luo Feng was frustrated. Time passed. In a blink of the eye, 9 days had gone by. How do I cultivate? Luo Feng wondered aloud. He looked at the numerous characters. Each was emitting light rays that were at times strong and at other times weak. It was like a gigantic scroll whose start and end were connected. It was presented right before Luo Feng, but he could not understand anything about it. The rays of light from the characters were nothing new to him, but he still could not make enough sense of them to be able to comprehend their meaning. Does this mean I have to stop at the 8th level? Luo Feng was very reluctant. But the countless characters on the gigantic scroll seemed so profound, like characters in a holy writ that he simply could not fathom. All of a sudden, Luo Feng, who had been studying the characters, suddenly witnessed all the characters on the gigantic scroll suspended in void space lighting up. Instantly, his consciousness was pulled within the scroll. It was as if he was using a virtual universe sensor so that his consciousness could enter the virtual universe. At that moment, his consciousness entered the scroll. Luo Feng stood on that suspended continent, unmoving. Far away in the surrounding void space, on the circular scroll with countless characters that resembled stars, there was an upsurge of light rays that were flashing and shining intermittently. At that moment, it was as though they were following a unique rhythm. A blurred figure condensed and appeared within the void space. He was garbed in a luxurious robe that had faint black rays encircling it. As a blurry shadow, he stood amid the void space as though he was the core of the entire world on the 8th level. Exuding an aura of absolute elegance, he looked far into the distance at Luo Feng, who stood rooted to his spot on the miniature continent he was on. "This is the second one," the black figure gently whispered. The previous one, whose consciousness managed to enter the world of scrolls, was quick to fail. Let's see if this one can succeed or not. Perhaps I have been asking for too much? My world of Jinn might be vast and mighty, but to give rise to an extraordinary figure who could cultivate this secret technique, maybe it was just too unrealistic. But other than this, what else can I do? What else can I do? My original body has been annihilated. I have no other choice, no other choice. The black ray figure quietly lamented. Among countless lives, there a miracle is bound to be born. The black, ray-like figure looked at Luo Feng from afar with a look of earnest longing on his face. Luo Feng stood rooted to his spot in a dazed manner. His consciousness had already entered the world of scrolls. The world of scrolls. Luo Feng could only feel his consciousness being attracted into the world. It was a feeling similar to entering a virtual world. Everything before him changed, and he arrived before a towering palace that was radiating a faint purple light. This palace was constructed on the peak of sprawling, high mountains. At first glance, the towering palace seemed to be enveloped by the clouds. Therefore, everything around it seemed to be blurred. Just one glance, Luo Feng could already feel the powerful suppression. He turned to look back into the distance. He could see no end to the vast mountain range. What place is this? I was just looking at those characters in the void space a while ago, and my consciousness was forcibly pulled into this place. This place seemed all the more mysterious to Luo Feng. How powerful was his willpower? And yet those characters within the void space that composed the circular scroll had been able to pull his consciousness here by force. Come in. Come in. Come in. From within the doors of the towering palace that was radiating faint purple light, sounds of beckoning could be heard, causing Luo Feng to fall into a daze right away. Moving as though his will was not his own, he walked toward the palace doors right away and entered the depths of the great hall. Huh? Luo Feng was abruptly awakened. Immediately, he looked around the place. I am already within the hall? Unknowingly and without any trace of vigilance, I was pulled under control. This difference in power is much too great. This was an extremely beautiful hall. To the sides, there were numerous exquisite pillars, and on every pillar were carvings of various pictures. A distance away, some decorations were found on the walls. All of these exuded a powerful oppressive force. Luo Feng wanted to take a closer look, but no matter how he tried, he could not see anything clearly, even the ground beneath his feet was unclear. It was as though he looked at everything through a thick mist. The entire hall suddenly trembled. Luo Feng immediately turned around, and within the same hall he was in, a beast appeared. It was covered entirely with black scales, and its body resembled the form of a lion. On its forehead was a curved purple horn, and both its eyes were filled with purple light. It could be seen walking about the palace hall, and its presence caused the entire hall to tremble. You are, Luo Feng looked at the beast. I am the secret technique itself, the purple horned beast replied proudly. Luo Feng was taken aback. The secret technique itself? Why, even weapons can have spirits. Why can't this secret technique have a spirit too? The purple horned beast snorted. Luo Feng was dumbfounded. Then he went wild with ecstasy. Oh, God! The spirit of a secret technique. If it had been a warrior from the world of Jin, then he might not have understood what was meant by a spirit of a secret technique. But Luo Feng, who had received the inheritance of the pulse of Du and Dong River, possessed knowledge of the ancient civilization. Naturally, he would understand. Within the ancient civilization, only a few formidable super-existences who stood at the apex of the entire ancient civilization would go to such lengths and spend such a great deal of effort to refine and produce a piece of a treasure of a secret technique for the sake of choosing a suitable heir to inherit the sets of knowledge they took great pride in. To enable a secret technique to contain a spirit was a very stringent process that involved combining a secret technique and a spirit. From the pulse of Du and Dong River, only the 3 generations of ancestors could have achieved that. No heir from the other generations had been successful. When a secret technique had a spirit, it would be able to choose a master that truly suited it. If other great beings vainly attempted to rely on their strong powers to forcibly seize this secret technique, they were bound for failure. And if the secret technique was unable to recognize a master, any attempt to kill its spirit would be impossible to achieve. After all, only a master could easily eradicate the spirit of a treasure. In other words, a particular super great being would naturally be able to destroy the spirit of a treasure when he destroyed that treasure. However, out of all those who could refine treasures of secret techniques, were there any who were not super existences from the ancient civilization? Even for the 3 generations of ancestors who could come up with a spirit of a secret technique, even when it came to the ancestors themselves, if the spirit of a treasure they created did not recognize them as masters, there was no way they could destroy the treasures, even if they were the creators of these treasures. So, destroying such a spirit of a secret technique was difficult, but to meet the requirements and acquire the set of knowledge that these peak existences were so proud of was even more difficult. Exactly what sort of secret technique would specially require a spirit of a secret technique? Could this be something that His Majesty the Godly King created? Luo Feng mumbled to himself. Even from the pulse of Du and Dong River, only the 3 generations of ancestors could achieve this. Facing this purple-horned beast, Luo Feng obediently sat beside it and listened. After all, even the 3 generations of ancestors could not use force against it, so everything had to be done according to the rules determined by the creator of this spirit of a secret technique. For you to be able to enter the world of scrolls, you must have a solid foundation, the purple-horned beast said. However, whether or not you can obtain this secret technique depends on your skills. Look carefully. The purple-horned beast's sharp horn suddenly shot out 4 beams of light rays. 4 rays of light bombarded in 4 different directions within the hall, and all of a sudden, 4 huge rolls of scrolls appeared on each of the 4 walls within the hall simultaneously. As the scrolls unrolled during descent, countless characters could be seen on the scrolls. However, 3 out of the 4 scrolls contained characters that were blurred. Only one of these scrolls was different. And that was the one suspended in midair before the palace doors. Every character on that scroll was crystal clear. Luo Feng could finish reading it without trouble. "These 4 scrolls," the purple horned beast said. "Before your eyes is the only one you can see clearly. This is the acceptance guide of the secret technique." "Acceptance guide of the secret technique?" Luo Feng nodded. "Acceptance guide of secret technique. For the existences of the ancient civilization who stood at the peak, it was never easy to find an heir. Getting killed during the maturing process was not a big deal. But after a warrior was killed and one's memory was being searched, if the super-secret technique it took such great pride were to be leaked out into the open, there would be big trouble. This was why they would usually deploy many means of precautionary measures. The inheritance imprints of the pulse of Duan Dong River were one such example. Under the restraint of the inheritance imprints, Luo Feng was unable to leak out anything about it. Even if he had been killed and his memory had been searched, the inheritance imprints would break up and destroy everything, so it was impossible for the enemy to find anything. Of course, there were many groups of powers, like His Majesty the Godly King of Jin, who, when handing over to someone under his command, would also follow the progress of his subordinate. If his subordinate's abilities grew stronger, then gradually, he would impart more profound knowledge. This was because the more powerful his subordinate was, the more difficult it would be to search his memory. If it was not truly an inheritance of a pulse, and he was not imparting it to a subordinate, then he would use methods like the spirit of a secret technique to cast the net and search for an heir. Usually, an acceptance guide of a secret technique would be used, and once this acceptance guide of secret technique was mastered, the truly powerful secret technique would be accepted and guided in to become internalized. By then, even if one's memories were searched, under the influence of the acceptance guide, there would be no way the true secret technique could be found. The acceptance guide of a secret technique not only had the function of protecting the secret technique, it also had the ability to choose an appropriate heir. This secret technique would be fraught with difficulties, and only those who managed to fulfill the various requirements would be able to master this technique. Mastering the acceptance guide of a secret technique would naturally mean that one could master this secret technique. Therefore, he would be accepted and guided into it. Everything would be completed. The more powerful a secret technique is, thought Luo Feng, even for a true god of void space, an eternal true god, or someone higher up in rank, all of them would still have to go through cultivation. I am merely a lawmaster, so I will certainly not be able to master the entire secret technique now. If I were able to master it all, then it would mean this secret technique carried no value at all. So, the significance of the 8th level of Wu Chi Tower, regretfully, is to master the acceptance guide of a secret technique and, thereafter, to completely internalize this powerful secret technique within one's own soul. Upon memorizing it, one would be considered to have succeeded. If the acceptance guide of a secret technique is never fully mastered, then the result will be failure. Luo Feng was quick to pick up on understanding the true significance of the 8th level of Wu Chi Tower. Upon mastering the acceptance guide of the secret technique, he would be able to obtain the entire secret technique. After that, he would be able to enter the 9th level of Wu Chi Tower. This would be the final barrier to overcome. This acceptance guide of secret technique must be very difficult. Otherwise, there would not be so many obstacles still to face ahead. And since long ago, there has been no one who has succeeded within the world of Jin. Luo Feng started to look very carefully at that scroll suspended before the palace doors. At his side, the purple horned beast was still speaking. This acceptance guide of a secret technique is very stringent, it said. The cultivators should ideally be law masters, and as for the highest level, one could, at most, be a true god. Any higher than that, and it would be impossible to achieve success in cultivation. This video will end here.